I got news for you. It's not your birthday anymore.
You had your day.
Yeah, your day? Yesterday. No, get over it.
I saw that, yeah.
It is 4 o'clock, and let's go ahead and call the regular scheduled Capital Investments Committee meeting to order. Second item on the agenda is approved minutes of March 8th, 2012. Everyone's had a chance to look at those. Any deletions, additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second. Proper motion, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Item 3, discussion concerning the purchase of the Danny Ray Jones and Mary Helen Luck property, 310 5th Avenue North, as part of the Hillsborough Road improvement projects. Mr. Parker, you're up.
We do have the property owners here if you want
Would you like to come up?
listen to them. As Ms. Luck's coming up, we have the memo, and it spells out basically 3 options. We had an appraisal. We have already made an offer of 10% over the appraised value, which would put an offer of $285,000. 10% over 270. I'm sorry. Yes, they're asking for 285. I'm sorry, and then. So if you want to listen to them, this is a part of the Hillsborough Road. This is one of the 3 properties that the board requested that we go through the total purchase for as we did this project. So with that, Mr. Chairman, whatever you want to go forward with.
I guess then, in reading the memo, I would go in this direction. If you justify the 285 over the 270 that we've offered, the staff has recommended 270. I guess the appraisal on the property was 245, so we've already gone up 10% on that, and you're asking for an additional 15%. If you want to, do you want to add anything to what's in the memo here?
The only thing that I would like to really impress you with is we would like to keep our little concrete business. We've had it for 17 years, and we would just so much like to keep it. But I have looked all over Franklin for another location, and I was shocked. We can't find anything that we could afford. Even if we got the 285, it's nothing that you can buy for that. We like Columbia Avenue, we like it all, but property out there is really, really high. And I would appreciate it very much. We are only asking $15,000 more than they have offered. And if you can see fit to help us and to do that for us, we would certainly appreciate it.
I would like to ask how much the relocation cost, at least removing and reprinting materials, how much is that?
We don't know. That is an actual cost that we would, the actual cost that they incur is what we'd end up paying for that relocation.
Above.
I guess, I'm sorry.
Submitted to us essentially, and we pay it.
Yeah, they would submit the certified type copies of cost, and we would end up paying for what that relocation is.
In addition to
whatever you settle for the purchase of the property, correct?
We're constantly looking at acquiring properties, and I just don't want to get into a situation where we are trying to, because it is very difficult. I talk to people all the time about if something happened to the house that they are currently in, they could not afford to buy anywhere else. So that's sort of the nature of our environment right now in Franklin. It's very difficult for someone to lose something or either to sell at a price and not be able to buy, because what I bought 20 years ago and you cannot buy.
No.
I'm not going to be able to support that because I will be looking at the staff recommendation, which is the 270. And just to be...
Plus the
upfront.
moving.
Yeah, yes. But to create another 15,000, because it is difficult to find something, that's everybody's story.
Well, we've been there for, like I say, almost 17 years.
Yeah.
Is it possible that we could just stay there? Because we're not wanting to move.
Okay.
We have, the community all comes there, the ladies around the community, they all come there, and it's a place that they like, and we don't make a lot of money with it, but we're there, and it does give us some extra money, you know, well, not
Yeah.
extra money.
Well,
And
yeah.
so if we could stay there then, because we can't find any place.
And you've been good stewards to the property.
We have been everywhere looking, because, you know, we want to cooperate and do the right thing, but property is high, and especially when you're talking about downtown Franklin. And our customers, they are upset because we're also moving, because the girls come there, the ladies, and buy their pottery, and if anything happens to their fountains, my son goes and fixes it for free. And we've got along beautifully with all the ladies, and they like to come there, and it's their little meeting, gathering place, and buy their pottery. And like I say, it's not a big money-making thing, nothing like it, but it's our little business that we've created. And we love it there, and the ladies that come there seem to like, it's their little place that they...
We do.
I know it, and they all like
I
it.
buy a lot of things.
I know, and they like it, and they come there and they enjoy it, and if we could find another place, well, we would cooperate really with the city, and we would move, but at my age, it's just, you don't want to get way deep in debt when you know that life is getting short. So I just thought maybe that if we had $15,000 more, that we could buy a little spot of land, and maybe, not for sure, they might let us put a little trailer or something in, put then our concrete around it. But most people don't want you to do that. So we have really tried really hard, and all of our little ladies that trade there, they're pulling for it. And they're looking too, you know, for us. So I just thought maybe that we're not asking but $15,000 more, and that according to the way things are selling around, we're going to have to really not have the convenient location with that. So I just thought maybe if you all would see fit to help us, we'd appreciate it.
Mike?
David, remind me how, when we buy residential properties in the right-of-way up at McHatcher, do they go out and actually find a comparable property and say you could move here, or is it just...
That is a different situation, residential and commercial. When you do look at relocations for the two different type of properties, is handled in a different manner. And then that we did for the McHatcher right away there, buying those properties, was very special in the fact that it was the flood causing an acceleration, and there are federal regulations and requirements that we had to follow to do that. So it's handled differently.
Because this is commercial, not residential.
Correct.
May I speak, please? As I say, we're not asking a whole lot of money. It's a lot to me, but most people, $15,000, I mean, won't even buy their car. And if we had that, then we've got to move, and we've got to relocate and everything, and we probably have to buy something that needs repair, you know, even if we found anything, which we have not. And I just feel like that we're not asking a lot of money. Just on today's market, not even the price of an automobile. So whatever you all decide to do, there's nothing else I can do.
Well, let me just say that, first of all, I appreciate everything you're saying, and I am one of your customers, and I would hate to see you have to move. But this property down there is so fragile. Everybody's got a story and a problem in that area, and we are having to tackle it right now. And so as much as I would hate not to be able to vote for $15,000 more for you, I hope you would be able to see the predicament we all are in, because everybody's looking to this board to make a decision about what's best for the community and for the taxpayers in this particular area. And it is a very special area, as you know. You've been there that long, and you know what Hillsborough Road means. And so I hope that you would understand, even if it hurts, that we are doing the best we can do. And I really appreciate your position. And
Can we stay there?
well, now that, I don't know.
That brings up a whole different discussion for staff.
I mean, we would like to
kinda
stay there.
get-
We've
because
been
we
that
would
old
need
place for a
right away,
long
right.
time, and we've tried to improve it. We just recently put a new roof on, it was $9,000. And we put another bathroom in. So we'd have one for the ladies and one for the gentlemen. And we painted it, and we put hardwood floors in it, and we're trying to make it pretty. And where the girls that come
How's the
there
project,
So how much
how's the
right-
project impact the
Right now,
Current
we're
property.
working under a resolution passed by the board that we're to purchase the properties. One of the reasons that was even looked at is the fact that access or pull-off access, parking, et cetera, is going to be eliminated for this piece of property when we do the project
Hillsborough Road.
because of
Yeah.
curb and gutters and bike lanes and all that. So, and that's part of what precipitated all this. If we go back and don't buy the whole property, then we've got to look at a reappraise, look at easements, what we have to have for easements, look at damages and things like that, that would be applicable for the project, so, or for the property, so. I mean, we can't give you an answer of what it would mean if you make that decision to go back and change your resolution, but, you know, it can be done. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done, but right now, we're just working under what we've been told to do.
I believe that this project will remove all the parking.
You'd have no parking.
Yeah, there will be
Yeah,
no
building
parking,
with
there
no
will be no parking for the building.
And
Is this the property where we said that there might be parking on another piece of property that we've already purchased?
There's another piece of property that we're in the process of making offers on that has brought that forward, but there is no.
Is there space there?
We own the piece of property between the two that this one and the other one. We already own that property. We purchased it. That's where the fueling station was. I'm not saying it can't be made into a parking, but it is not something that's been set up to be done.
The problem, I mean, if you take that the next step, let's just say we all agreed we should let you stay. The problem is, we're going to take up so much parking that there's going to be an inverse condemnation claim. And that's going to be a significant portion of $270,000. So it's not as simple as saying,
Right.
let's be kind and let them stay. It doesn't cost us, then we don't spend 270. The problem is then, that property is devalued, there's compensation necessary for that. And I'm not an evaluator or appraiser or anything like that, but, I mean, when you take away all of the on-site parking, and granted, there's not a ton at the moment, but when you start running curb and gutter right up to the front door, it's gonna be, I mean, the choice, it's only maybe marginally less or less than what the appraised value for the whole lot is.
Sir, we don't ever have but about 2 cars at a time.
I understand that, but the value, if the city were to say yes to your request to stay there, aside from potentially complicating the project and compromising the point of the project, at least in that little area, that you would have a right to make a claim for damages to your property based upon the encroachment that happens, even if you were allowed to continue doing business there. And there's a number that, I mean, there's a dollar figure that is. And it's somewhere, I would guess, between 0 and 270. But it's not 0. It's a number. And so, I mean, I'm terribly sympathetic to everybody that's displaced by the flood, by the project, by all of it. and we do the best we can to be accommodating in terms of timing and using, you know, valid numbers. But if we start settling cases based mostly upon the niceness and sympathy of the people that come in and speak to us about it, then everything's going to cost more, and we're going to have an irrational system. Because someone else might come in from down the street and say, well, I've been there just as long, I've been there, you know, my business is good for the community, and the problem, if we do this for you, what do we say to the next person who doesn't have a $270,000 property? They have a $2.7 million property. And they say, well, gosh, if you could just give me not 15,000 more, but 150,000 more. It's only 10%. It's only, you know, whatever it is. The problem is that I'm not even sure we're allowed to do that. I mean, I guess maybe we could, but if the process is to have any integrity for you and everyone else, then we have to go with some rational basis for it. And
Sir, do you have any suggestion of what I could do with my business since I've been there? And like I say, it's no lot, but it's ours, and we work hard for it.
I don't want to sound crass or unkind or unsympathetic. All of those businesses, you know, I drive down that road every day, and it saddens me to see the empty ones. And it's a credit to you that you've gone back in there, and I don't know how many times you've had
The first one back after the flood we was.
Yep, and I don't know how many times y'all have had to go in there and mop that place out over the years. No doubt many times. And, you know, so there's that aspect too, because the city has made a deliberate decision to purchase some of those properties because they are flood.
Sir, I have no complaint to the city. I never have complained, and I never will, because we knew when we moved there it was a flood area, and we bought it under those conditions. So during the years, we never had a flood like we had, you know, a couple of years ago.
Right.
We've never had one like that. It was a very unusual situation, and we was in the kind of business that we could scrub the concrete off.
And get
We
going.
lost a cash register in the counting machine, those kind of things, office things. But we was the first ones, and it was in the paper, to open back up after the flood. And the very next day, here comes some of the ladies back to buy.
I wish that there were easy and obvious solutions.
Are you just flat out telling me that there's nothing that can be done?
Well, I think what we're obligated to do as stewards of the taxpayers' money is pay as best we can.
I pay taxes a lot.
We understand.
Yes, a lot of taxes.
No doubt. But if we say yes to you, then we have to be prepared to say yes to everybody else. And then we have to explain all of that to the people who pay the taxes that we spend to do it. And if we were in a situation where we never condemned anything and we only had to worry about this once, personally, I think it's a very sympathetic story, and I would love to help you. But this is one of many on that road that we will and have done, and it's one of many more to come as we do other projects. And I certainly don't mind whatever the relocation assistance that we can render is. I want that done to the fullest extent.
Can't find anything,
I would
sir.
too.
Have we?
And
we
you
don't.
know, every time that Franklin has had anything, I've supported it. And I support every time the police call and want money, every time. Now, I am not a moneyed woman, but I have never turned Franklin down because I dearly love the city.
And we thank you for that.
Mike?
We're talking about if they could make a claim. What if they waived that right in exchange for a couple of parking places on the property south of them that we already own?
South or north?
South.
South.
Yeah, south.
I don't think we're gonna be able to.
I don't know that we can,
I don't think we're gonna be able to solve it.
I don't think
Mr.
that's-
Mr.
yeah.
Chairman, if we could probably,
And
I want to ask, doesn't this appear to be a unique situation where we could remedy by just giving 2 parking places? I mean, it's not as, I mean, as I say, it is to me a unique situation because for other people who are having, and I don't know what the specifics on the other 2 pieces were, but if they were going to take all their parking or most of their parking, then it did turn out to be worth maybe close to the amount of money for the entire property.
Let me ask,
This one, if you could just get 2 parking places out of some property that we've already purchased.
would that require any re-engineering, Mr. Parker?
You can do what is being suggested. If you do that, then you've set the precedent. The next piece of property has already asked you about it. You'd be looking at also probably parking for the other piece of property on the other side of the one that, right at the corner of North Margin. Now, if we do that, let me explain something. If we do that, if you go through and leave both of these properties and we provide parking on the property we've already purchased, there is quite a bit of redesign that has to be done because the other piece of property has electrical sector, et cetera, that is designed to go in that space. And they lose all their parking too. I mean, all the properties there that pull off of the right-of-way, or actually they're parking on the right-of-way, but if they pull straight off the road on Hillsborough, they're losing their parking. So what I'm saying is, yes, it could be a special case, but then there is the precedent has been discussed for the other piece of property that we're supposed to be purchasing. If we do that parking again for that one, then we've got a pretty good redesign that has to take place on the project for the electrical, then, as you're well aware.
Does that redesign cost more than $15,000?
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand that the request that you're making, I'm not sure that you understand this.
I understand, I just want to keep it, or either you all give me enough to get me some little
Okay.
place else.
But to keep it, there is no scenario under which you keep it and keep parking as you currently have it.
Well, I said only 2 cars at a time.
I understand, but the next closest place is not, it will not be where it is now.
Where would it be, sir?
That's,
that's what we don't know.
okay. So I mean, one thing I know from having been on this board for a while is that, I don't know about your customers, but it turns out that lots of people don't want to walk even half a block to get where they're going. They want to park right there. And there is no scenario where we can both build the road and keep your business parking where it is.
Well, it looks like to me, of course, I'm not on the board and I don't know anything about it, but only except I just know me and my little concrete store. But it looks like to me that $15,000 is not going to break the bank.
let me ask this question then. The appraisal was 245.
No, sir, they finally raised it to 270.
No, the appraisal was
245.
245.
We raised it.
245. We raised it to 270. And you're saying that 15,000 more, and you have no argument whatsoever, and you're looking, and you're willing to move, and you're not even, you're sitting here, so. I've got
I'm just willing to do anything
I've got
that's
a-
right.
Well, I've got an issue with us already offering $25,000 more than the appraisal, and then coming in with an additional $15,000.
But sir, I
to say-
can't buy anything.
Well,
You know,
I don't know that 15,000, I understand $15,000, but I don't know that $15,000 to the 270 to 285, you already got, you should have something in mind someplace that makes, so the 270 doesn't buy it and the 285 doesn't buy it
We
either.
just priced everything, and some of the prices would just knock you out. Like one place out on Columbia Avenue, they was wanting $600,000. I thought, oh my Lord.
Well, it's pretty now.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's pretty now.
But if you don't have the money, you can't buy it.
$2.7 million went into Columbia Avenue.
If I had that kind of money, I'd just retire.
well, I'm going to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'm going to move that the appraisal was 245, we're offering 270 plus moving expenses, whatever they are, whatever we can put in that. That's my motion, and it has nothing to do with my feelings. Nothing to do with my feelings.
Second.
That's my
Second,
motion.
proper motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And this will go to the
This goes to the board
Board.
as a
Right.
consent item.
This will
consent
be our
item.
next
Okay.
board, full board meeting.
And
We're
it's-
not gonna get any raise or...
This would go for the April 24th
Is what the offer is.
meeting.
Well, that's all I can do. What else can you do when you've done all you can do?
Item 4, consideration of amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with CDM Smith for the Jackson Lake Dredging Improvements Project, City of Franklin contract number 2011-0037, for additional services with an additional not-to-exceed cost of $15,500.
As you'll recall, we've been having some complications and some disputes concerning this particular project. What we have asked for CDM is to look at a cost that we can get that they can hire a subcontractor that's a dredging expert to review all the work, review all of our documents, review the project itself, and make some recommendations to how we should proceed. And then also there's there's time overrun on the project, which requiring CDM to be out there longer than what the original contract was for. That's what this is going to cover, and we do recommend that we approve this and go forward and see if we can't get this project back in a reasonable assembly of completion.
Basically, we've had a subcontractor throw up their hands and say, I just can't do it for what you agreed to pay me?
We're not at that point yet, but the subcontractor is pretty much taking longer than the bid allowed for. So
Significantly
this is
longer.
extending the project. We're not necessarily dredging experts. We're asking CDM to help continue through this project to see through to an end is basically what we're asking. I will say that the problem is with the sub, and there are liquidated damages associated with this project.
My concern is that we're paying money
To have.
in the hope that we figure out how to have a solution, and I'm troubled with the idea that the solution isn't to tell the sub, you bid it, you got it, go do it.
That is actually what we're telling them. This is, the contractors made some claims about trash, asking for additional time, trying to extend the contract. Their dredging expert will help us to say that, no, there is no extension of time, and this is some of the issues that you're facing to try to speed the project up, and also help with the weekly meetings that we currently have.
Okay, because I don't want to get into another Century Court fiasco with this.
That's what we're trying to avoid.
All right, so, I mean.
This is trying to get an
without saying
expert to
it,
help us
We're
make
kind
sure
of
we
putting an
don't-
expert witness in place on the job
Now,
now.
yes.
Because there's been some questioning about how we assessed and bid the type of work that it
Well,
was.
don't be afraid to tell me that.
Yeah.
You said it
I
before I had
love
a
experts and
chance.
lawyers both.
Move for approval. Move for approval.
Proper motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Item 5, consideration of sewer availability request for Deerfield Section 2, Lot 40, and Mount 52, Parcel 38.
Which
Mr.
one's
Parker again.
Which one's here?
I believe this is Mr. Cash.
This, I think all of you probably know where Deerfield Drive is. Deerfield Estates, this is off of Spencer Creek Road. If you could pull up that map, please.
Sort of behind BGA.
It is next to, next to and west of BGA.
So you would turn at that light there.
Okay, I have a question.
And what we have is, of course, this is in the county, it's not in the city at this point.
It's in the UGB though, right?
Correct.
Yes, I'm sorry. It is in the UGB, and what we've been looking at is to look at how would be the best way to sewer the subdivision. And that's what we're trying to.
Time out.
Yes, sir.
Before we even go down that road, are we getting clamoring from Deerfield for for sewer as a whole, because I don't want to be in the position of we're here from the government, we're here to help. It's, I'm going to pick my words carefully. It is challenging enough when we have a majority of the residents come in and ask for it. And I don't fault you for for looking at it as an engineer, but I think that's perfectly appropriate and I appreciate the opportunity. But unless and until we're getting consensus from the would-be special assessment district that they want to go that route, I mean, and I don't mind if we go out and ask them, but I'm not sure I'm not sure initiating it on account of one request isn't going to be a mess.
Well, there's two requests from the same, the next item is also another request, and what we're looking at is sewer system versus long sewer service lines, which we think is not good for the system, and we're looking at the integrity of the system to get a system. There is the possibility that since the layout of the existing subdivision is it could be set up with multiple areas served, if you can, and it's going to be hard to see this map, I understand, but it's not all going to be coming to one point to come out of the subdivision. If we put in a sewer system for the whole subdivision, there's several different points that it would come out, but we don't feel that we should be looking at putting in service lines that are 200, 300, 500,000 feet or better just to serve one piece of property.
I don't disagree.
And so what we're looking at is putting in main lines, and then services would be off that. So it could be set up in more than one assessment if that's what it was.
These two requests, are they requesting for existing homes?
They're requesting for existing homes. My understanding, they're requesting for existing homes because they're wanting to do some improvements, and the county is saying that they've got to request
Fair enough.
availability.
But they're not requesting because of failure. They're requesting because the county is not allowing them to expand on their existing septic.
That is correct. In one case, they're doing doing an addition on their house. For Mr. Cash's case, I believe that the county is saying that the septic system does not service the number of bedrooms that are currently in the house, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh.
And it was a condition.
Oops.
It was a condition of the sale of his house, and that's what sparked the request for availability.
Okay. I'm perfectly happy to help. And I don't disagree that the engineering solution that is proposed as a system is the proper thing for our city engineer to be doing, our city staff to be doing. But we need purchase. We need buy-in from the neighborhood, or we need to be told, go jump in the lake loudly, and then I will. I'll be happy to never do that. Okay? We've been through we've been through this a number of times, and I'm perfectly willing to do what the community wants done if they want to go through the process. But as we all know, it is thankless. Okay? And so I would suggest that I don't mind saying, yes, you can have sewer, pay whatever it costs to get to us, and we'll, do so in a way that is not permanent, or do so in a way that is, amenable to later being added on. And in the meantime, let's drop letters on Deerfield and ask. Communicate with the HOA, whatever mechanism we have, but, I'm reluctant to go very far at all down the road of special assessment district initiated by the city.
And annexation.
Yeah, and that was pretty much my comment.
Annexation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's that too.
Yeah. That was pretty much my comments. I would be interested in knowing what the other you got 43 homes out there. Are they substandard perhaps? I mean, who else did not meet the requirement from the county perhaps, and at some point in time will need addition, so.
It's also say how big these lots are.
Yeah.
And, and for most of them, they have plenty,
Space.
space for
Okay.
I mean, we're not talking about half-acre lots, we're
No.
talking about what?
5 to 10.
5 to 10 acres.
That's true. And
All right.
based on what Mr. McClendon has said, if that's, if the board is wanting to go forward with that, then also, right now, your policy is we can't even provide service unless they're proposing to be annexed with your policy. So it would have to be, unless you're going to annex one single lot or whatever, then you need to have a waiver of that policy or however the right word is.
We have waived that policy, what, the last year, 2 years, out there on, where is it? Hillsborough Road?
With that one
We've done it.
resident.
Wait a minute.
But is that?
When are you to do that?
Well, it was, we did, but we never heard from them again. True?
True.
The one lot, the one big lot that was gonna be a family compound, it's got a big for sale sign in front of it now? That one?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We never heard from them again, so,
It's not-
because we limited it to one SFU.
What was that in the UGB though?
It wasn't, but we couldn't annex it, but that, talking about unique circumstances, I think we flushed one out, no pun intended.
Well, I'm not interested unless they want to be annexed, and so we don't go through this thing again.
Can we,
And I said that at the time.
these lots, can we annex them one at a time? Are they situated where we can do that in a rational basis?
I don't think we should.
Well, maybe we should or shouldn't, but if they're not,
Some of them you could.
I'm talking about the two applicants.
These two.
I am not inclined to go
One's right.
bringing solutions to people who did not ask for them.
Show us on the map where the
Is there extreme opposite?
I don't want to annex somebody's neighbor to get their property.
Yeah, oh yeah, that'd be even worse.
Stated differently, are the two applicants currently contiguous to city boundary?
The one property is located right here, I'm sorry, here. The other property, Mr. Cash, the one we're discussing right now, is
Grush?
located right here.
So let's say you are here with BGA or something.
This is the main
Okay.
entrance here to Deerfield, and then this is the property that we're discussing now, and the yellow line is the location.
He would be contiguous to the city from,
So he is, are both of them contiguous, or that one is? The northern one is?
This is the one property.
Is that Fieldstone?
yes.
Yes, this is
Yeah, so the blue line is the city limits.
And what's the other one?
And the other one is south.
Scroll it down a little bit.
If you scroll down a little bit, it's at the entrance to Deerfield,
So is that,
which is right there.
So it's contiguous to
All
the
right,
city
I mean,
limits.
we could theoretically annex both of them without annexing
Everybody
anyone
else.
else. It would make some odd shapes, but
Mike,
So we were talking about the work off of a main that would be used if we extended it, or then how does that work? Do they have to pay for the whole main? And then-
Yes, yes.
And then
It's
even
their
if
cost.
we hook it up to other stuff later, they still pay for that section of the main?
Those people pay for it
is
when they
that,
get hooked up.
No, you see what I'm saying? It's kind of like when we do
What,
special
what,
assessment for utilities, and the argument out on South Carruthers was that it was gonna provide service
To everybody
Middle
else.
Tennessee Electric downstream, so would that play into this?
since the line that would be required is a minimum size line that, the first one would pay for it. And there is no, recovery, or anything, and others may or may not have to extend it, to
what about
get
an
to them.
easement? The northern property, Mr. Cash's property, is yours the northern one?
Yes.
The northern one looks like it would require at least some permissions from,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
Some HOA stuff in there.
We'd still have to get easements. We would have to get easements off of other pieces of property to be able to get to him. Not that it can't be done. I mean, it's typical the way you do it. What I'm saying is, unless you get the other properties come in on the front end, is not, is, the way we have things set up is, Mr. Cash, he would not be able to get any recoveries. Again, unless you do some exceptional case type situation.
And if the others wanted to be annexed at a later time, how would they get hooked up?
They'd be able to hook, if the line's on their property, they'd be able to pay the fees and hook up.
Even if it weren't, if it weren't big enough?
It'll be big enough. Minimum size line that we allow is an 8-inch gravity line. 8-inch.
Good grief.
8-inch will serve all the people that's crossing. So that's not a problem, but that's the minimum size line.
I haven't done the math, but I'm going to guess that an 8-inch line for any individual homeowner trying to get either of those two properties connected is prohibitive.
It's several hundred feet with several manholes. It's, in that area, you're going to have rock. So I would say you're probably talking about $70, $75 a foot.
Yeah.
For the line, and that doesn't count the manholes per se.
Mr. Cash, are there others out there you have talked with other than the two we're discussing?
I've taken a temperature of the neighborhood. I've not talked to everyone, but the general consensus is absolutely we don't want sewer. You know, I mean, like our home, you can look at the contours up there. The north side is like mountainous almost.
So they're not wanting annexation.
Oh, no.
Okay, so that's a dead end.
Yeah, they don't, I mean, because Monticello was, was either annexed or.
Both.
Both, okay, but yeah, the general consensus has been.
Is this your home?
Yes, ma'am. We moved 2 years ago, and this home's been on the market, and had a.
You mean you moved out of it?
Moved out of it.
So you're trying to,
And we had somebody who's, made an offer on the home, and they don't want to buy the home. But when I bought it, the MLS sheet said it was a 4-bedroom house. I talked with the closing attorney, and it's just been a bit of a nightmare. I just had no idea what I was getting into. It's my first septic home. But anyway, I've tried to get septic, expansion, but because of the contour, there's not another area where we can expand it. It's a 4-acre lot. But anyway.
But your footprint is not, for your home is not, you don't have the hills or taken out.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's pretty wooded up there too, so that's prohibitive as well.
And you don't want to be annexed?
I would sure prefer not to. But I'm, we're moving. I mean, we have moved, so
but the problem is, even if we said we don't feel like we don't require annexation, I can't imagine that the city is going to be in a position to extend the line for one home, to extend an 8-inch line for one home.
Well, can I show y'all something? There's a manhole basically in our backyard, and it's not what they've proposed, but even if 20 years from now, and just looking out, if septic failure happened, like this woman back here said, these lots, they just go onto, one of their other
New field.
10-acre. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
what manhole is up there?
There's a manhole right in the back of
Manhole for what?
But that's in Fieldstone.
In Fieldstone.
So our home is right here basically, and there's a manhole right here.
But that's the hundreds of feet that Mr. Parker's talking about.
No, the 1,200.
There's a manhole right there in that cul-de-sac.
I've had an engineer come out and look at it and give me a, not a quote, but a pretty close estimate on, because it's, if you look at the contour, it's straight uphill, there's a pump that would be involved and whatnot. But, I know that technically speaking, it's possible. I'm just.
Well, most engineers will tell you anything's possible, it's just how much money you want to put on it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
The difference between.
I know it's not cheap. I mean, I know that. I've already done the math and prepared for the hit.
As we were talking to the nice lady before, we try to make rules that make sense, that we apply uniformly going forward to the last guy and the next guy, so that we can all know what they are. Let me ask you this. Let's just say we were willing to get out of the way and be accommodating and say, well, we may or may not feel like we need to annex you. That's a political decision. And we'll let you tie on, but getting there's your nickel. Does that solve any problem for you?
Absolutely.
So the cost, I mean, because I just made the assumption, maybe I shouldn't have, I just made the assumption that if you had to pay for the line, it was it was an academic point.
No, no, no. No, I mean, I'm prepared to pay for the line. You know,
Well, I think we need to clarify where
circle.
we're talking about going with the line.
Okay,
Because
yeah,
I
I'm
think
prepared to pay for the line at that manhole.
to that manhole in the cul-de-sac, which basically.
it's not a gravity line.
It probably could be a gravity line, but it gives you a gravity line such that you're only going to be able to serve in the future maybe 2 lots versus the way it's laid out is our proposal. So if you're willing to do that, it can be done.
Okay,
And to
well,
give you the
that,
difference, what we're proposing would require a 1,200 linear feet extension of the main line. What Mr. Cash is proposing is more like 300 feet from the closest manhole just to serve his property and not the subdivision.
okay. I mean, what constraint has the county put you under?
From a septic standpoint?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a soil scientist and a surveyor come out and basically say, there's no way this property, you can convert this system. It perked for 3
Are
bedrooms.
you unable to sell the property?
That's a 4-bedroom.
As a 3-bedroom.
No, my question is not, forget bedrooms, because you can take, I mean, you can unmake a
That makes a
bedroom.
difference to the county.
I understand that it does, but my question is, are you unable to sell the property as is?
I mean, that is a good question. I don't think so technically. We had it listed as a 4-bedroom house. These people came in, did a septic inspection, showed that it wasn't, you know, it is a 4-bedroom house, not even technically. I mean, it has closets if, you know, in every bedroom or whatever. So if anything were to be, the county's, you know, unusual how they work like that, but I mean, I guess if nothing, I don't know how to explain it. If it stayed the way that it was right now, then, you know, if there wasn't a bathroom added or, you know, another bedroom or.
Is this problem one that exists because there's a specific buyer that has this condition, or is it any buyer?
We've had this one offer in 2 years, and this specific buyer, upon doing that thing, or the inspection, the septic inspection said, you know, we're not gonna buy the house, but you know, until this issue is resolved. So I went and tried to get expansion from 3 to 4 bedrooms, and that was,
But if I mean, really, that's just paper permission. You're already running 4 bedrooms.
yes,
You already have a 4-bedroom house on this septic system with no failure.
correct.
You just need some government employee, civil servant to say that we're good with that.
Or does the buyer
I
want
looked at a lawyer, I've gone to him about the county and tried to get it, you know, I've gone as far that way as possible, really.
so does the buyer want to add a bathroom?
Well, they just don't want to have their hands tied.
Okay.
You know, I mean, if you know, they don't want to have that, yeah, I think they do want to do some remodeling. I have not really talked with them.
Okay. So as is okay, but in addition is a problem.
Exactly.
Well, as is, it's not okay according to.
4-bedroom isn't okay, 3-bedroom is.
Yeah.
Well, but it is a 4-bedroom.
It is a 4-bedroom.
And they can't make him move out. They
Yeah.
can't condemn him. They can't
Right.
fine or tax. I mean, there's,
But before somebody
It's
else does it,
unmistakably a
they can say
4-bedroom
you have
house,
to
and
take
if you
care
saw,
of it.
you know,
well, but if the buyers said, we'll take it the way it is, the county's not going to hang up the sale. They're just not going to give them a building permit if and when they come in and say, we want to add footage or a bedroom or a bathroom. Okay,
Correct.
I understand. I just want to make sure that I want to
you're
know what,
dead on.
I want to make sure that I know, because we're at a situation where your home has been rendered valueless because you have a system that has failed and you cannot fix it on site. That is a different,
I understand
that's a
that.
different scenario than you have one buyer with a condition that you're trying to meet. I'm not unsympathetic to your trying to meet it, but we have to make decisions, as I explained to the nice lady before, we have to make decisions that are rational and sound and for the sake of the whole city. Okay?
So with
Mr.
that-
Skinner?
And it may be that the county requires that you have an alternative field line of equal space of the existing field line. And if you can't provide that alternative space, and you can't build on top of it, you can't put a pool in it, you can't put a driveway on it, that may be the issue.
So,
And I have a letter basically stating what you just said.
Right.
Yeah.
are both, Mr. Chairman, is both families here for the second one as well?
One family was out of town.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because this conversation probably going to relate to.
Well, I think the other one is different.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
I think the other one is less of an engineering problem. I hope.
Or the
Not
same.
really.
I think it's the same.
Wonderful.
As far as us having a public sewer there, they're both basically the same, other than the lower one actually is longer lines required to get to them, but.
Mr. Cash has confirmed my intuition, and that is that Deerfield would loudly tell us they didn't want any help.
Right.
We've sort of figured it.
Okay.
The other property owner is doing an addition to their house and has been told that they have to come to us for sewer availability, is my understanding of the way he's talked to me.
So is it in progress, the addition?
Can't be. They can't get permits.
Oh,
Can't get a
okay.
permit until he finds out, and we don't know if
We don't know.
And
he
sometimes,
can
I mean, I'm
expand
not,
his septic or not.
sometimes these situations are the county, and I'm not being pejorative or condescending, but sometimes they get told, go get told no,
Right,
and then come back and talk to us.
Yeah.
right.
And then things go on their way. I mean,
And then that second one, that's somewhat likely.
okay, so,
What's the-
Mr. Parker, tell us what the problem, Mr. Cash has one engineering solution that he's apparently prepared to pay for, but you're not a big fan of that because it only serves his
Him.
lot and maybe one other.
Him, yes. But yeah, that is, as far as we're trying to look at what's best for your system.
Okay.
And what you can do. You could allow a simple service line to go to him if you so desire.
But how much, who, do
You
we have to
pay for it
get,
all.
do we have to get easements and whatnot from the,
We'd have to look at the plating of that area of Fieldstone to see if there'd have to be an easement. There may be some open space or homeowner association or individual lots, I'm not real sure, to come out of that cul-de-sac and get to the boundary line of the subdivision. We'd have to look and see what that would be, but it would be all his cost to do it.
okay, well,
That's the
he's,
simplest solution, is to allow a service line for his lot.
the cheapest.
Out of the manhole.
Out of that
Simplest,
manhole.
cheapest. Right.
Okay, and my inclination is to say, I don't necessarily mind that, but I also don't want to be in the process, I don't want to be involved in condemning easement property across an existing city property owner's property to
Right.
get there,
Right.
for the sake of serving one
I understand.
non-annexed or for the sake of serving
And
one
as far
property.
as far as an engineering recommendation, I would have to tell you, and Mark may have a different one, but my recommendation is, if you're not going to require the full 8-inch line to serve the 5, 6 properties, that you allow, if you're so inclined to allow service, allow the service line. Instead of having a 8-inch line at a point that it's not going to serve us well in the future, just allow service, set it up that there is something recorded with this particular lot that should that come in. Should we come in later
Should we
with
do an
needing this
assessment?
8-inch line, et cetera, that we will be able to obtain the easements and that they will make all costs to change from their service that would be existing if you allow it to tie to this new line when it comes in.
They would
You understand
convert
what
to a larger system.
Right.
If
It'd still be, it basically for them would be a conversion over of a single service line to that service line going to the 8-inch line that you would put in for all those lots up through there,
Who would
if
pay
it
for
ever came.
Who would pay for it?
Well, as far as making that tie in the future, you'd make this, it would be a part of the condition of
Special
approval.
assessment on that.
As far as that line, I would assume it would end up being a special assessment for all the properties that are benefited.
All right, if we approve that one line, that single line through Fieldstone, and in 3 months, the 3 lots down come in and they say, we want to hook up to that line too, what would we do?
Well, that's your decision, but what I'm recommending to you is you only allow, for this lot, a service line. A service line. A service line will not serve more than one lot.
Mr. Cash, what's your time constraint here?
2 months. I have they made a contingent offer on, that I had 6 months, so I've been waiting to, meet here for a bit, so I need basically an approval and a plan. in 6 months in order for this sale to go through.
I don't mind saying yes to a service line to serve just you, because I'm convinced that it will be a long time away before Deerfield ever says as a whole, they want a big line. I don't mind helping you solve your problem if you want to pay for it. My only reservation is getting into easement condemnation with Fieldstone people.
Can you explain that to me?
Well, your line, you don't own all the property that you would have to use to get your line to the
Correct.
To the
manhole.
manhole.
Okay?
There's one open lot right there that's a HOA, it's just straight to the. you know.
Okay. If you can bargain that with the HOA, I just don't want to get in the situation where the city has to accommodate you, the city has to go out and condemn privately held property to allow you to put your sewer line across it.
Gotcha.
If you can go buy it, or get it for nothing, or get it by agreement,
Yeah.
I think I'm okay. My position would be, okay.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, when I talked with the HOA at Fieldstone, they said they can't restrict that you guys.
They may be right.
It may be a public utility.
It may,
also.
if it's already an easement access, I don't mind if you use it.
It could be.
But I don't want to have, in a month, I don't want to have John homeowner who lives in Fieldstone, current city resident, living happily ever after, come in and say, why are you digging up my yard for that dude?
Gotcha.
I didn't say yes to that.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Mr. McLennan, was that a motion, I think?
Yeah, I'll move that we conditionally approve the request for a service line on the condition that any easements that may be necessary are, one, obtained without condemnation, and two, adequate for future use as described by the city staff.
So condemnation, you're saying anytime you put a sewer line through a property?
No, either you have either there's existing permission, or you have to get it. Like if someone wanted to come out there and run a power line, a power line across your property, they either have to buy it from you and you say yes, or if you say no, and they have the power of condemnation, then they can do it anyway, and they may have to compensate you for it, but your no doesn't count for much. It's still going to happen.
Gotcha.
I'm not willing to, at this point, based upon what I know, I'm not willing to help you create a sale of your home by using government power of condemnation across another man's property.
I got it.
I don't mind getting out of the way and saying yes to your request.
Second the motion.
You understand what that is?
Yes, sir. You're saying I have to have permission from everybody, you know?
And you may not need any more than you have.
Right.
Okay, I'm not quite ready to vote.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm fine with this, except when Mr. John Doe, 3 lots down, comes in and says, I'm willing to pay for a line from that hole to my lot, and I want to be on, and first thing you know, everybody on there will have sewer, and they will not be under any special anything.
They will not be able to do it unless you allow it. And
Well,
that's the reason.
I mean, I've talked with all those
That's
people that
reason
you're
we set
talking
it
about
up
that
the
are
way we
right there, and it was a resounding,
No, they don't, but you see, they're not going to always live there. And so the next fella that comes in may want sewer.
sure.
And I don't have a problem with you, but I'm just saying, if you run your line there, they're gonna say, well, why can't I run my line there? And I'll pay for it.
Well,
But for them to get to where we're talking about would be, you know, about a quarter of the price of their home.
well,
Which I can't
and those
imagine
other
that-
lots probably have field lines that you have restrictions on expanding the septic that most of those other lots don't and never will have, correct?
The topography is different.
Mike?
Are you making annexation a condition?
No.
No.
How you feel about being annexed?
I'm moving, so I would, for their, you know, I would think from a selling standpoint, that would be, you know.
Let me interject.
How does staff feel?
Let me interject a second. I
For a
don't,
service line,
if you want to do the service line, I would recommend that you do not require the annexation, and the reason is you can annex it, it's contiguous. There's no access that you can do
We'd have to
with
send trucks
annexing one
and-
lock, you're going through county and.
Well, not only that, we're talking about
Trash,
garbage,
Yep.
police,
Yes.
fire.
All of it.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, it would be better just to allow the service line.
Again, I want a rational outcome. And I think this is one of those situations where making an exception to our general policy makes sense.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
5%.
Five.
This is fine.
This is 5, yeah.
Is there any reason not to treat the other one exactly the same? Mr. Parker, from
Well,
an
you
engineering
can't, you
perspective?
can't do a simple service line for the other one. I don't think. You've got to cross a lot
of where he is.
yeah, from where that property is, you're going all the way down to Spencer Creek Road to get to an existing sewer, so you're not gonna be able to just simply do a service line.
They're not here?
They're not here, and we're not sure we kind of think they may want us just to say no, like you were talking about the county sometimes of talking, you know.
Well, I'm reluctant to say no
Without.
without, can we defer it and get them in and,
Sure.
because I don't, I mean, you know,
Sure.
these are situations that require specific solutions to me. I mean, if we're not going to do the whole neighborhood,
We can do it the next meeting.
fine, and, you know, we've helped this gentleman without making irrational exceptions. I don't mind hearing the other people, see if we can help them
And for
too.
what it's worth, I really do think, because of that topography, I'm no engineer, but I mean, all I know is I got 5 houses that sit
Higher.
150, if not 200 feet above me, you know, and I'm right in the peak of where they all, it's just, I mean, I would have to imagine, it may not be the most efficient way, but I know that it would service more than, you know, 2 homes, just, you know.
Well, but we're not sizing it for that. We're not requiring
Got it.
you to make this. If we were contemplating putting them all on
Got it.
eventually, you'd be digging a much bigger ditch,
Gotcha.
Much bigger
probably
pipe
deeper.
Yeah,
and much deeper.
got it.
Okay.
So
Need to act to defer.
Thank you.
item 5 passes, item 6 deferred. Item 7, McHatcher Parkway Extension Project, Northwest Quadrant Project Update. Mr. Parker.
I sent to you
Thank you,
yesterday by email, and there's a copy of it in your box. I hope you were able to get that. We just wanted to update you a little bit on this project. We are looking at some issues that we're going to need to get worked out with TDOT and our consultants. With our consultants' help, let me rephrase that. The memo was quite long. The first part of it is, I thought since I was writing the memo, I'd just bring you up to date where we've been
I have
and where we are.
One correction.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 3 of 4, you've got at the September 27th, 2012 meeting, I don't believe we've gotten there yet.
Well, I was looking forward. It's 2011.
You're predicting those?
It's 2011. I'm sorry. Thank you for that, though. But we have some issues. TDOT is still reviewing plans after we submitted them, our consultant submitted them in May as far as final construction. They've corrected some of those comments that they first got back. There are additional comments. There's issues concerning how the bridge is to be built, Hall Road, temporary bridge, et cetera. And then also TDOT is wanting to look at the landscaping or CSD elements to see what may be eliminated.
And
they're also
CSD is context-sensitive
context-sensitive
design, so it's different design elements that we're.
Right, that's the monuments, the pretty stuff, aesthetics is a better word than pretty, I guess. But then also, TDOT has hired RPM Transportation to do a new analysis on the intersection at 96 West and McHatcher because some of the data up to this point has indicated that AM peak for a roundabout in 2020, I think it's, anyway, is going to, 2030, I think it was actually, it's going to fail or it's not going to act as a roundabout. And they're wanting to look at changing that intersection to a signalized intersection. But at the same years that it's, the studies up to this point say that the AM peak time for the roundabout will not act as a roundabout. The AM and PM that same year for a signalized intersection will be a level of service E. So they're going to have a new analysis done to try to get a better handle of what to be expecting in the future. If we go to, if they want to change the intersection, of course, that's a major design change. We also have to have design for a temporary bridge for the building of the road and for the haul road that is required to get to it. We have met, city staff has met with TDOT concerning some of these issues. And what I told, and I will not speak for Mr. Stuckey, what I told TDOT was any additional design needed to be paid by TDOT, because we have finished our contract with CDM Smith as far as design. They finished the final design. So anyway, that's kind of where we are right now. We're waiting on this new analysis before we get back with TDOT, because we need to know what's wanted at that point or for that intersection before we start looking at any changes and all. So we'll add, unless you don't want me to.
I'll go ahead and
okay,
touch on a couple things. I talked to the TDOT commissioner yesterday about a couple things going on with this project. First of all, they released today their 3-year plan, and the extension of Mac Hatcher is not on that 3-year plan at this point. What Commissioner Schroer said is it continues to be an important project, but they're dealing with a very limited number of Surface Transportation Program, or STP, funding dollars, which is federal dollars that flow to the state. And essentially, they've added the additional widening of I-65 and the interchange in the 3-year plan, which I think they're looking to bid by end of this year.
End of this year, early next.
So they are expediting that element overall, and that's in the 3-year plan. This is not in the 3-year plan, but still is important. I asked him, what can the city do, if anything, to help continue to advance this? He said, you really have already done it. You've put $5 million plus into the project in terms of design and right-of-way acquisition. It continues to be an important project, and just because it's not in the 3-year plan now does not mean it may not be able to get funded in that window. It's just not in that plan as it stands right now. The other piece, I did talk to him directly about the sort of value engineering that's been proposed, and said, you know, we need to work through that process with the board, and that needs to have a public component to it because it came out of a public process. But my sense is that we're willing to look at those elements and talk through that. And he said that's helpful as well. You know, the fact that we partner with them. And then I said the exact same thing that David said, which is, but that design needs to be part of the TDOT cost of the project. We've spent the money to design the project that you told us to design. And we spent our money doing that. Now you're coming back, and we'll be a partner with you in doing it and saying we need to revisit it, but we've incurred the cost we said we'd incur, and he was completely understanding of that. Like I said, I did ask him, is there something else we need to be doing to clear any hurdles? And he said, no, you've done it in terms of the right-of-way acquisition, the design that's been done, and where we are to this point. This value engineering is something that they need to do in terms of overall allocation of resources across the state, and really taking care of the basics of building roads, not just in this project, but generally. And that, you know, as long as we continue to work with them, that will be helpful. But that's where we are with that element of the project. And
were we ever in the 3-year plan?
No.
We were not in last year's version.
Okay.
The discussion last year was, well, we hadn't completed the right-of-way, and they wanted to make sure the property was all acquired before they put it in the 3-year plan. You know, obviously we have the widening going on,
So
that's happening
65
already, but it's the give and take of, you know, they've literally got billions of dollars of projects that are identified and eligible for STP funding across the state, and they're being very selective about the little bit of funding they have in that area. And it just didn't make the cut at this point. But if it's like it was described last year, and I'll just describe the explanation we had then, which was, we don't program all the dollars available to us in that 3-year window when we release a 3-year plan. So there is play.
Same result, different explanation.
Yep.
Yeah. But there, I think there is capacity, that's why he made the statement, it's still a priority, it doesn't mean it wouldn't get started in that 3-year window, but it's not in the plan right now.
Ann?
I don't know exactly what you mean by value engineering. Is that
That
the
means take out elements that David described, like the roundabout, like some of the more
Monuments,
beautification
context
elements.
sensitive.
Those kind of things that,
The stuff that's not asphalt.
yeah, that's essentially the approach TDOT is taking, not just on this project, but on other ones that have those same kind of elements, is we'll build the road. If you want enhancements beyond that, that's up to the local entity to fund those.
Well, I personally think that's fair,
Yeah.
and I would be, I don't know what we would need to do, but if the board as a whole is interested in being accommodating in that way, I'd like to find out what would be the best way to, if the whole board is in agreement, the best way to communicate that to them, because honestly, I think things are different from what they were in 2006, whenever people were looking at this, and, that's whenever a lot of money was coming in. Our budget was growing by at least 10% a year, as opposed to being less now than what it was at that time. As I say, I'd just like to know if the entire board is interested in how we can work with them and indicate our flexibility to do what we can. I don't know about the payment that you're talking about exactly, but on that reviewing what was recommended before, I think the time, unfortunately, is right.
Well, I think what we've talked to them generally about is that we would come back through the board in a public discussion process to talk about what those changes might be. It would need to be informed by some of the study that's going on about the traffic circle roundabout and some of the other elements they're talking about, and then we could specifically talk about what, it was this, they're, from the reviewer, proposing this alternative, and just making sure that you're informed of that and how we move forward with all of that. And since the public was involved in some input on these design elements to begin with, everybody's sensitive to make sure that the revisiting of those elements happens in at least a somewhat similar public process.
And one thing we'll point out too, we have said all along in discussions with TDOT and I talking and myself talking with Mr. Shore that we were not expecting to take out the pedestrian pathway system that is a major element of what we're trying to do with all of our roadways and our intermodal actually. So, and they agree that they don't think that would be something that they would be asking to be done. So that pedestrian pathway system is still anticipated to be a part of the project.
Even though it was a context-sensitive part of it?
It is a part of the context-sensitive design, but it's also to coincide with our overall pedestrian bicycle plans and intermodal systems that we have set up through the various planning activities we've had.
To be honest, I would rather have the road if you have to let that go, but that's just me saying that.
And you're going to have there'll be other agreements to that also. I think here's my opinion. I think what needs to happen is if we're able to eliminate some of the things in the context-sensitive design, if that's the roundabout, if that's the monuments, if that's some of the pull-offs, if that's curb and gutter, whatever that is, I want to know what it is that gets the road built and put some asphalt out there that we can travel on, somebody else can travel on, and eliminate some of the traffic issues that we have. So
we're going to have to do without the Clyde Barnhill statue.
if I want one out there, I'll pay for it. But now, so that's my opinion. That's where I want us. And if it gets you back in the 3-year plan, so be it.
I don't know that they're a condition of one or the other. I want to be clear on that, but it helps us along in moving the project forward that we can get to a agreement on what the project is.
Well, I'll make up
You
some
can
numbers.
value engineer everything out of this thing, it's still tens and tens of
It's
millions of
still a big
dollars.
project, yeah.
And, you know, if we can shoehorn it in by taking out statues and flower pots, well, okay.
Well, the aesthetic aspects of it are only around 5 million or so, of a $90 million.
So you may go from
Well,
Well, I think
90
that's just
to
busy
80.
work anyway. I think
I
we
would
still.
like to see us, you know, this thing's been on the book for
Yeah.
50 years. 50 years, this bypass has been talked about.
Location's moved too, hasn't it?
And I think we need to keep the bicycle and the pedestrian ways in it, and I just don't think that's gonna be that much trouble. We could use my bulldozer to help with that if we need to, but we could get that done. But I do think we need to go on with it, and if we need to eliminate some of the aesthetic aspects of it, that's fine.
As I said, we're going to get the analysis from RPM, or the state's going to get it, and we're going to be copied and be able to review it, and then we're going to set up a meeting with us and our consultant and TDOT, and we're going to look at these issues and try to come back with a recommendation. We'll go to a public meeting where we get all of the input from the stakeholders group that did the CSD. They will be invited to that public meeting, and we're planning on doing that with a mailing to them directly to make sure. And then, of course, you're invited. The board will be invited. But you know, and to get to a point where everybody understands what's going on, what's being proposed, and then from that point, it'll be a deciding factor of who's paying for what. Right now, it sounds like that everybody is in agreement that TDOT will pay for it. We'll mention, it's in the memo, we have saved over $5 million on the right-of-way acquisition aspects from what was budgeted by TDOT. So there is, TDOT has about $5 million out there of right-of-way acquisition left over from what we've done, so.
Mike?
That's where we are.
David, we were talking about the 2030, the roundabout probably wouldn't function, but you said also that the signalization, if they did that, would be an E.
Level service, as the analysis at the time indicated, that's one reason TDOT's wanting to have another analysis done.
So do I remember that what the state had recommended originally would be an overpass? And
Well,
that's why they went with
the original concept for Macatcher West, the west half, was to be a controlled access, more of a controlled access instead of limited access. They were going to do grade separated intersections. It was basically be built on an embankment around the west side for a lot of it. We objected to that because it's a wall. That's what brought it back down, and then the analysis and going through the CSD was that to look at doing a roundabout at 96, and it proved out that the analysis showed what it did I just mentioned, and the CSD recommendation was to do a roundabout. Now, as we were doing that, we also added some dedicated right turn type lanes on the roundabout that makes it function somewhat better, but not enough to say that the, well, we got Tony back here, he might be able to explain it better, but not to say that it would, at that AM peak, that it would still act or function as a true roundabout, which I'm actually asking for a definition of what that means, because I don't know what that means.
So the analysis is in order.
If you can add any to that, I mean, other than they're working on the analysis, and tell everybody who you are, because they may not remember.
Well, my name is Tony Montiel with CDM Smith. I am the project manager on this project for Macatcher. What David was talking about was these dedicated rights, which I guess to further clarify, are not part of the analysis.
Right.
The original analysis that was done as far as the level of service that you talked about. So when RPM goes back and they look at the full picture, it's going to give a different I guess, idea of the concept of the capacity of that roundabout, how it's going to function in 2030, which is going to be, that's the design period.
Right.
Does that help clarify?
The question would be how many right turns are coming off of that, though?
In every quadrant, you have a dedicated right. So it enables somebody just to
Keep going.
Nobody on
Keep going.
96 is gonna be turning right, probably, either way. But that's just my opinion. However, I have to say that level of service E is no worse than what is on Matt Hatcher going south of 96 right now.
So, all righty, good report.
So thank you for the report. Any other questions? And
Thank you, Tony.
item 8, consideration of the purchase of property located at 1846 Wilson Pike for the McEwen Drive at Wilson Pike intersection and improvements in the amount of $310,000.
This is the property we discussed a couple of meetings or so ago as far as going forward. We have got its an amounts negotiated and settled, which is $2,950 less than the appraised value of the property. We would recommend that we go forward and purchase this whole piece of property.
I move that we recommend this to the board, that we go right on and
And this
purchase
is the one we saw on the field trip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Proper motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 9, consider the purchase of easements from Rockford Realty and Construction Company for the Hillsborough Road improvements projects in the amount of $58,020.
Where is that?
Is there a big sign on that?
This is the Wendy's on Hillsborough Road,
Wendy's.
right there at Independence
Front of
Square.
Independence Square. Front of the Kroger.
We want to just do part of, just,
We're purchasing easements.
just, okay.
In front of the restaurant.
Not going to purchase Wendy's.
No.
not
This
for-
is just easements.
And
It's a lot of singles.
Taking care of that big sign.
Right.
Easements and damages.
I move for approval.
Second.
Question,
Yes.
what signage will they be allowed to go back in with?
I don't know that I have that answer to you.
Well, what do they think?
They've agreed to the increase in offer of the $5,000, so they're okay with it, is my understanding.
We're building them signs back as part of Hillsborough Road, conforming signs.
Similar to
This is 2 signs, it's the El
Chico.
Mexican Restaurant.
El Guadalajara.
Guadalajara and the Wendy's is the 2 overhead signs that we're talking about taking down, and what will be put back in is ground conforming.
Similar to what's on
Similar to what-
They
Club
get that,
Avenue.
they understand. that.
Monument.
Yes.
All right, because I don't want to have any more, I mean, we're buying these, if we're buying the easements that the signs happen to be on, I don't want to have any further discussions about signs.
We're paying extra for
We
the
paying
signs.
extra, so that should be
Okay.
part of it.
Correct.
10% more consistent with our practice and policies.
Y'all are, if they gonna lose parking lot space, we'll have to pay damages and.
This is all the cost for the right of way, or the easements, any damages, $5,000 for signs, et cetera. So this is the total
It's all
cost.
wrapped in.
It's all wrapped in.
I bet they don't drop off one bit selling cheeseburgers and burritos either.
Nope. And, you have a question?
Do that motion?
So move.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Item 10, status update for the
Yeah.
Hillsborough Road improvements. I think you already had that, yes. Status update for the Hillsborough Road improvements project.
Main thing we need to talk to you about, and I think you have a part of your package that has the map. What we're doing on this is trying to push as hard as possible to get some construction started. And to do that, we're actually dividing, is it not in the packet?
Is it right?
It should be
Yeah,
there.
it's on-
It's up on the screen, it's easier to look at.
Sheet.
What we're doing is we're having to do what we're asking to do because of the part that's out at Claude Yates and to the bypass is we're still tied up trying to get things worked out with TDOT before we can even start right away. So we're trying to get some work going, so we're proposing that we split the project. It's already split in 2 phases because of funding from TDOT and all of the city. But we're talking about further splitting it, that we would build from 96 up to just north of Wendy's, right about where the entrance of Wendy's is right now, and go on and get that ready to go and start construction on that. The reason for splitting it there is we have the gravity utilities that we have to do that go back to the north, and we can't do those until we do the part that is the TDOT funded. So we would split it up into 3 projects. We'd do what I'm talking about from 96 up to the north of Wendy's, and we'd get started on that as quick as we can get everything arranged. We still have some right-of-ways and easements to take care of. And then as we do the TDOT portion, or that portion that has TDOT funding, we would bid at the same time the rest of our city portion, and those would come in and start being done at the same time, because we have to bring our utilities, city utilities, from the north to the south. So that's the reason for doing that, because of the gravity situations. But it would allow us to get started, and we're trying to get started on this project. It's just languished too long. So anyway, that's what we wanted to bring to you, to let you know that's where we're headed. We hope to be able to start construction on the part that we're pushing forward. By this time next year, hopefully bid it in January.
December of this year, we would bid this.
Bid it and get started, be under construction next year. We still have right-of-way and easements to acquire.
The timing of this is exquisite. It will get both of my kids at Hillsborough High, at Franklin High, rather. That'll be perfect.
We're still working on right-of-way.
Listen,
I just don't want
we have
to
got
both
to get a sidewalk to Franklin High School before a child is killed. We've just got to do that. Now, if you're saying that it's going to be a year before we can even get started on that first part.
No, it's going to be bid by the end of this year. It would be bid by December of this year.
So we'll see the work.
There's 43 properties that we're working with. We've made 32 offers. We've had 20 accept. We're still trying to get that right away before we can actually get to a point where we can bid the project.
This is absolutely unbelievable.
This is good news. We're getting it bid by December. We're breaking this into, we're not waiting. We're trying to move an item of this sooner than later.
Yeah, but after you bid it, then what? Then how long
Then
does
we
it
build
take
it.
to get started?
It
The
takes.
next morning?
No, it takes us a month to 2 months to get all the paperwork done, all the insurance from the contractors, all the contracts signed, et cetera, before the construction can actually, the contractor can actually start work.
I was
So that's
as
the reason I said
exercised
this
as Miss
time
Martin
next year.
12 years ago.
Well,
That's kind of.
Well, this is good news.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting it,
This is good
we're getting it to
news.
the portion that we can actually bid the project and get working on it by early next year.
It's going to happen in our lifetime, so this is great.
This
So
also
this-
gives us more control. It makes the city portion without the federal funds in it. We still have to get approvals through TDOT, but it puts it more in our control to push it as fast as possible.
We're doing the basic.
I have
You're
a
up.
couple of questions. One of them, though, is you say that utilities will have to be redone from the north. So does that mean that the utilities won't be redone on this part?
We're able to stage the utilities in a manner that we can do what we're talking about doing. The problem that we're having as far as going to all of the city projects, we have gravity portions that go to the north. And this is the high point. Where we're stopping is basically the high point of Hillsborough Road between 96 and
Of that
Manhattan.
particular piece? So you're
Yes.
talking about from
So,
the north of that?
We'll still be doing water utility relocations, we'll be doing electrical utility relocations, gas, phone, all of them in this section will be taken care of. We'll have to do some temporary tie-ins that will be lost, but we cannot do that to the north because we have to start at the very end of the project with our gravity portions of our utilities, which is sanitary sewer and drainage. So we can't go on up in there and do that. So that's the reason for splitting it the way we did. But all the utilities in the section will be constructed, will be taken care of as we're there.
What about the electrical? Because aren't we going to have?
That's what I said, the electrical, we
Electrical?
will be doing the electrical, it'll be a temporary tie-in at the point of where we'll be stopping. We're working with the utilities to get those tie-in points, and has to be done settled now, so.
But the utilities really will have, I mean, the electrical itself, though, would have to come from Mac Hatcher down.
No, the electrical will be we will be putting it underground in what we're
okay.
talking about constructing.
Okay.
And we're also, if you remember, we're having a lot of it's relocated off-site from Hillsborough Road.
Well, see,
so
that's the part I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about the underground.
Yeah, that's taking some of it, but we'll have to come up out of underground at this just north of the Wendy's, and go back overhead until we get that next part under construction. Then it'll be picked up, and it'll still all be done. It's just an intermediate step there that we have to take.
The other piece, from a financing standpoint, the southern portion that we would fund by the end of this year, or bid by the end of this year, is we've already borrowed this money. This was the money that was part of the recovery zone, and we had the special bond funding that we've got. So that funding is literally already there too. So you're really kind of syncing up the funding that you've already secured with the ability to move this project forward sooner than the northern portion.
And it gives us a bid number instead of an estimate on what the cost is going to be.
We'll know a real cost for a portion of the project
So you can
sooner than
put that into a CIP for an actual
better
number.
cost.
That's right.
And get a better cost.
Do you need a motion or
No,
something
ma'am.
about this?
Could I ask another
Sure.
question? On that part that you're looking at right there, is the Third Avenue extension a part of that? It's not up there on it, but.
Third Avenue Extension is a separate project that we anticipate will be bid even before this, if I'm not
That is
mistaken.
correct.
And it will be being constructed at the same time.
Well,
But we'll take care of that intersection, the change in the intersection, as both projects are
and so,
completed.
and what is the projected price on that? Projected cost?
On Third Avenue?
Mhm.
It's, the last estimate we had was around $5 million.
I want to tell you, whenever you think about that, compared to some of the things that we talked about Tuesday night, that just seems, money that's very extravagant considering where we are on our other projects. That's just $5 million for what? Not even, how much like 1,000 feet?
I think it's around 1,500.
Yeah,
Off the
yeah.
top of my head. I would like to add, as part of the status update, I was going to discuss Third Avenue, but we're looking at doing a similar thing with Third Avenue North, where we separate out what is federally funded versus what is city funded, in an effort to also accelerate that project as well. And in the near future, we're going to be bringing forward a contract essentially for construction administration to move that project forward as well.
Well, as I say, it seems very extravagant to me at this point, whenever we're looking at these other things. We're talking about a piece of South Carruthers not being much more than,
Well, there's Greenfield building, and then there's threading the needle in downtown Franklin. I think those are,
that's not it, though. It just has a lot of other little parts to it, and as I say,
you can say it, flower pots?
Yeah.
Okay, it's all right.
And flowers.
No matter how many
And a
times you
bridge
say it,
and
you won't be more cynical than me.
No.
All right, good report.
No. Any other questions on 10? Go to item 11. Consideration of resolution 2012-21, resolution authorizing condemnation for the acquisition of property for the Hillsborough Road project from Highway 96 to North Independence Square.
This is to where we can continue and get the right-of-way easement acquisitions taken care of, where we can do the bidding in December.
I would like to add, this is for all of Hillsborough Road, this resolution. The caption says just Independence Square, and that was my mistake. The resolution is for
We'll need to update, yeah.
all of Hillsborough.
All of Hillsborough Road.
So the 43 is all of them.
Well, I move that we,
The resolution says that, the memo doesn't, so we can fix the memo.
Second.
Move approval.
Proper motion and second.
She got the motion, but I'll support it. It's time.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Item 12, report on the efforts of staff regarding the city's review of stream names and needed revisions.
Do I still have to die to get a stream named after me?
Yes, sir. See my name on it.
How about the fact that I was dead briefly? Does that count at all?
Remember, it's dead. In 5 years, we'll recognize that.
Only on the stream that goes dry.
Actually, if you look at Glass Branch, I mean, whose name right there on the branch? Is that Pearl Drive?
Pearl Glass.
I mean, what's wrong with making that?
No, we got bad news.
Really, we just wanted to bring this in front of you to provide you with an update as to where we're at and how we're moving forward with this process as far as naming these streams. And I'm going to let Crystal talk about the process as we go forward in the plan.
Yeah, I believe it's been almost exactly a year since we started this process. I still have the Tennessean article tacked up in my cubicle, and I think it was ran May 5th of last year. So in that time, I think we've provided one update to you guys. We want to provide another one because we have performed hydrologic determinations on 97 waterways in Franklin, and of those, 54 have been determined to be streams that are currently unnamed. So it was quite a tremendous process to go to verify all of those, and then we've had to do historical research for some of the names. So we have proposed names. Those should be in front of you in the maps. Does everybody have a copy of the map? Mm-hmm. Okay. We're ready to move forward with a public meeting to gather citizen comments on those names. There are a few that you will see are still undetermined, so we're hoping that
Can we give suggestions sometimes?
that suggestions can be given for those. And
What we want to do is give you the first shot at looking at this where you can make the first suggestion. But we will be setting up a public meeting and getting public input, and you are invited to the public meeting, of course, when we have it. But
Unnamed stream 1, unnamed stream 2.
Well, along the Carter Creek, one of my first thought was the Reverend William Scruggs. So, however, I want to put that in play. So he lives out there in that area.
Has he been dead 5 years?
No, he hasn't been dead 5 years. Well,
That's
no.
been gone 5 years? Yep.
I mean, why can't you just be dead?
Well, that's what I said.
I mean,
But no.
you have to stay.
Scruggs, Reverend William Scruggs.
if there are no other suggestions, because we do have two streams still undetermined along the old Carter's Creek Pike area. So if there's no other suggestions for that, we can use that and propose it to the name of geographic boards, but it would be up to them to decide. So we can still try to bend the rule.
Well, he did a lot of building
for
out
that.
there in that neighborhood. He was a contractor back in that one of those subdivisions back in that area. So I just think it would be appropriate. So whatever it would take to put his name in play, I would make
I
that.
would recommend you just say Scruggs.
Okay, yeah, Scruggs. It won't be
Yeah.
no
The last
Reverend
name.
William Scruggs.
Well,
Yeah.
and the other point
Scruggs
I do need to
Branch.
make
Yeah.
is there were names, and I'll just point out, such as Gentry Branch that we thought about because Gentry Lake is already named. There's a stream that runs through that lake. However, when we check that name to the database with USGS, there are too many streams already named Gentry Branch or Gentry Creek that occur in the state of Tennessee, so we're not able to use that name. So,
So if
just keep
Scruggs
in
is
mind that
Hopefully
if you
Scruggs
do-
is okay.
Scruggs may or may not be okay.
We gotta check it.
So we have to check that out
But
too, but
that's-
I will make a note of that. And anything else between now and the public meeting, give you guys kind of some time to digest the names that are on here. Please shoot me an email.
And nothing
And
like
any kind
Poison
of-
Creek or dirty water,
The devil hole.
no swimming, that kind of thing.
No.
Three-eyed fish, nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
Devil Lake.
Definitely not three-eyed
You
fish.
gotta be dead and stay dead. You can't name it something funny.
And
This
any
is no
background
fun at all.
information you can provide to why you want to suggest that name would be very helpful because we have to include that in our application to USGS. The criteria, if I can remember off the top of my head, because I don't have it in front of me, name after geographic names in the area, historical landmarks in the area. If you wish to name after a person, they have to be deceased for at least 5 years and have had to have made a significant contribution to the community.
And our plan is after this public process to bring it back for a formal resolution prior to submitting it to the U.S. Board of Geographic Names.
Well, how many names do you need?
Let's say, what, just maybe
Not
4 or
many.
5?
We have 54, but I think there's 2 or 3 that,
There's 4 undetermined on our map.
4.
So you got 54 nominations for 4 things to name?
no, we
you
have
got-
54 streams.
Already
We
named.
have 50 of those 54 with suggested
named.
names. We have 4 that we haven't been
Oh.
able to dig up records
Oh, I
to
see.
see who
Okay.
owned that area or if anything significant happened. Nothing.
So first look at the undetermined and then, maybe,
All these names have been vetted,
These
Yes.
names are just what we've come up with. We're looking for any recommendation, feedback.
but
that the
they've
board
been
may
vetted as far as eligible.
Eligibility has been
You're in
checked.
the URL availability.
Yes. We check them with the database. So all of these are.
Okay, we will
good.
email you.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're gonna set up a website that names streams for people and get service.
Item 13,
Thanks.
consideration of amendment number 3 to the professional services agreement with Benesh contract, City of Franklin contract number 2010-0152 for State Route 252 Wilson Pike and the McEwen Drive intersection improvements in the amount not to exceed $10,400.
What this is, we have, excuse me, we have some needs to do design. The majority of the cost is to do a design for relocating the force main that is attached to the existing bridge. We're going to have to change that as we do the work. It was not a part of the scope for the original contract. There are other things such as design of shared driveways. When we looked at what we had driveways coming out where stop bars would be for traffic signals, and we're looking at designing, now that we're going to buy that piece of property, we'll have some driveways coming out, shared driveways coming out just right across from existing McEwen to take advantage of the signalized intersection and make sure that it doesn't fail right away. It'll operate correctly. And then that will be taken care of in the future when we do the extension east of Wilson Pike. But to do that, this is, it's a change order to the services contract, and that's what we're recommending. As I'd like to also let you know that we did receive a letter from URS, which is the consulting firm that CSX uses. They have been authorized to do the review of the plans that have been submitted, so it is in process. It's as far as the CSX crossing, and also we were very happy to receive that, and it should continue on in and not create us any delays any further. So,
Do we have any sense of how long that review takes?
I don't have a sense of exactly that review, but we are still on our original schedule as far as meeting that October deadline to have the.
So that
funds
fits in what
submitted.
we've.
It fits in with what we had laid out originally. We are monitoring that very closely as we continue forward as far as bidding the project to obligate the school board's funding.
move approval.
Second.
Proper motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Item 14, consideration of the professional services agreement, City of Franklin contract number 2012-0050 for water at $39,000, and the City of Franklin contract number 2012-0051 for sanitary sewer at $21,000 with Heathcote and Davis, Inc. for the utility relocation for the I-65 widening project from north of State Route 840 to north of State Route 248, Goose Creek Interchange, TDOT project number 94002-2184-44 in an amount not to exceed $60,000. That was lengthy, wasn't it?
I move for approval of what you said.
A proper motion, is there a second? And is there any questions?
Second.
No questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? 15, consideration of the professional services agreement, City of Franklin contract number 2012-0052 with Gresham Smith and Partners for the West Main Water and Sewer Rehabilitation Project from Fair Street to Fifth Avenue North in an amount not to exceed $44,900.
This is an additional sewer redesign and improvement. If you recall, there's already a project underway as far as designing some on West Main. This is the sewer downstream, and we need to get it also upgraded to be able to take care of all the problems that we've had in the area. And this is an effort to get that going. So
these are very old lines.
Very old, and if you look at them, no, they're not wooden.
Quite, but
they're not wooden, but
they were the next technology.
Yeah.
no, they're removed from even the next technology.
Proper motion, is there a second? Any other discussion?
Well, these are efforts in working on older neighborhoods, so anytime we can go in and do this, it's always great for our citizens.
And this is part of the rate, when we talk about rate-funded capital, when we go through the financial plans in water and sewer, this is that exact type of project.
Proper motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Item 16, consideration of change order number 7 for the McEwen Drive Phase 3 project. City of Franklin contract number 2011-003 for an increase in the contract amount of $70,495.02.
This is work that was needed to be done, added to the project. The majority of this cost is for the rebuilding of the monument sign for Liberty Park at Turning Wheel Lane. It had to be removed and has to be now rebuilt. We did have some needs to redo some handicap ramps and pedestrian crossing at the entrance into the apartment area. And then we added some, for safety reasons, we added some guardrail and then some additional signing for the project. So, and it comes out to that amount of $70,495.02. We recommend approval of this. And I would remind everyone we're having a ribbon cutting for this project tomorrow at noon. Expect to see you all there.
All right.
Well, you will be disappointed.
Well, I should have said I expect to see most of you there.
Actually, you.
Well, here's my policy. When we finish Bicentennial Park, the last ribbon cutting and photo op I showed up for, I will consider being in another one. That was 14 years ago. Thank you.
That was the groundwork.
Yeah.
He was a younger man.
Yeah.
They broke ground back in
1998, 99?
99.
Yeah, okay, sorry. 13 years ago, my bad. Kind of got burned on that one, so I'm a little gun shy.
Proper motion second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Item 17, consideration of final change order number 6 for the Franklin ITS AARA project, City of Franklin, contract number 2010-0091 for a decrease in the contract amount of $140,479.63. So what we've just spent, we've just made up a little.
Do want to point out that this is actually a change order number 5 and then change order number 6, final
Okay, so
change
two.
order. There are 2 change orders here. One, or both of them are deducts for a total of $140,479.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Proper motion and a second. All in favor of item 17 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any questions from any alderman on any of the street project reports?
I would like to just
Paul?
provide one update, is that Nickel Mill was opened as of this week, and that project is completed, so just wanted to bring that forward.
We didn't ribbon cut it?
There's no ribbon cutting.
We just opened it.
Are we not proud of that?
And then the only other project I'd like to update is 3rd Avenue North, like I said, we talked about earlier, is that there will be a professional services agreement coming forward in the very near future as soon as we can get a price worked out for the construction management of that project.
Any other questions? Let's move to water management project status reports. Any specific question that any alderman wishes to have addressed?
When is the dam going to be removed?
I don't have a specific date on that yet.
I thought that was supposed to have already been done.
No, ma'am, it is scheduled to be done this year. Dan is working,
Probably.
Dan Allen is working on getting all the contract stuff put together where we can go to bid.
Later into the year,
But
what, July, August would be the earliest?
We're definitely within a few weeks of wrapping up the bid documents and getting it advertised, so we should be under construction in the dry season, late summer, early fall.
That has always been.
That's
the
where
plan.
we knew that. We
Waiting
have to
to-
do that in the dry season. So once you missed last year's dry season, you were into the same time frame.
Mike?
I had a citizen's contact me the other day and had some knowledge about they thought was a similar solar sludge drying aspect in Jacksonville, Florida, that they were disassembling because they lacked enough solar energy to truly dry it out.
That's interesting. I've not heard of that one. There are a number of installations in the United States, in North Carolina, in Mississippi. A number of other communities here in Tennessee are looking at it, but I don't remember that.
In Jacksonville, you said?
We have evaluated the temperatures and sunlight and all that, so it's, at this point, we feel it's a viable option for this. So I'll do some little research in it.
You're gonna look at that?
Sure.
Any other questions?
If I may, sir.
Go ahead.
There's been and this is related to the integrated water resources plan, there's been a number of, I guess, communications to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, either at the board meeting Tuesday evening and also in a memorandum that you may or may not have read from this morning. I have a copy of it, and I'll be happy to hand that out. If you've not had a chance to take a look. I would like to comment on a few things, and I'm actually in the middle of preparing a response to all of the information that's been presented in this memorandum. But if I may, and I know we're running late and...
No, we're not running late.
Okay.
We're right on time.
Okay, well, if you would indulge me, I would like to make a few statements pertaining to this. Sorry, Dana. I guess probably the easiest way is to go through, and I'll just call out, there's 7 items on here. I do not plan to go through all of them for the sake of time, but I do want to touch on a few of them. And if you look at item 1, the statement is the production of finished drinking water from a 2 to 4 MGD drinking water plant will need to be updated from the CTE work. Well, 5 to 7 years ago, the work that CTE had done was valid. CDM Smith has done its own production analysis using 35 years of daily flow data from the USGS gauges. We did look at a conservative approach by not incorporating the raw water reservoir, 114 million gallons. And I think it's also important to note that during the board meeting Tuesday night, Harpeth River Watershed Association had made a statement that the production analysis included effluent discharge from the proposed wastewater plant upstream of the plant. While this was an analysis that was performed during the integrated plan, this was not incorporated in the cost analysis, so that statement is absolutely false. If we move on to the second item here, the cost analysis needs to be based on the annual and seasonal hydraulic flow variability of the water in the river. We, again, looked at 35 years of daily flow data. This does incorporate and account for the seasonal and annual variability in flows. Statement 2 also further goes on to say that the historic data suggests that the ability to make drinking water is only about 5 months of the year. The historic data does not support that statement, nor do the graphs that are presented on page 2 of the memorandum. So I'm not sure where that information comes from. Again, I'm going to provide a detailed response to you all here in the very near future. I just want to touch on a couple more things if you will indulge me. Item 3, the unit cost per 1,000 gallons estimates must be provided to reflect the ranges of seasonal and annual hydraulic flows. It says that the cost analysis was based on a dry, wet, and normal year. Well, this is not accurate. The CDM estimates were based on the period of record, 35 years of daily flow. So that is inaccurate. It was actually presented in a way that was summarized so it could be better internalized by board, public, staff. If you would like additional information pertaining to that, we'd be happy to provide it. We have 35 years of 365-day data. So, and I'll move along here.
Don't hurry.
Okay. The item 5C. Again, it's referencing the CTE information, and again, while valid 5 to 7 years ago, we have engaged a consulting team to evaluate not only the water, but water, reclaimed water, stormwater, in an integrated approach.
In a modeling process that we have worked with the regulators to evaluate as we did it. Does this make sense? This is how we're modeling it. Very much tailored to our specific watershed in this situation, not generic at all.
Right.
So
This is
we have a much more refined modeling that we did in the integrated plan than the 7-year-old model that's being referred to.
And if you look back to the time, and I know some people were involved at that point, but you look at the cost estimates for the cost per 1,000 gallons. CTE had made these estimates. I think it was $2.23 per 1,000 gallons at the year 2025. We're at $2.18. So yes, it is high. Harpeth River Watershed and Dr. Wade had presented that it would be at $1.87, 31 cents lower than the current rate, grossly underestimating what the reality is. So I'm going to leave it at that unless, of course, you want to discuss further. As I said, I will be preparing a document to present to you all that addresses some further issues that I had found in this memorandum.
I appreciate your response to this, because we did get it, and
We'll give you, Mark's drafting a specific response on each of the elements. We'll share that with you here very shortly. And, there were some comments made at the meeting that we couldn't fully respond to just because of the time crunch, but we'll have that, and we'll have lots of other opportunities to meet and discuss as we move forward. But Mark wanted to, just by way of update, give you a little bit of a response on some of the elements. So.
And I appreciate you indulging me. Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions on water, wastewater? Let's go to stormwater projects. Anything on stormwater projects? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
First, before you do that, I just want to remind you again of the neighborhood meeting, public meeting at the Williamson County Ag Center on April 26th at 6 p.m. And this is concerning the widening project, TDOT widening project on 65 and the Goose Creek interchange. So I just want to remind you that it may be something that some of you wish to.
Would you give me that date again?
It's April 26th at 6 p.m. at the County Ag Center.
And I will send that out in your update that I send you all.
Thank you.
I think it was.
Same time that we have a planning commission and.
We haven't.
Yeah, it is the planning commission night. I was
That's
thinking this
budgeted
was
at 1.
Yeah.
What time was that other one? What time?
This is at 6 o'clock on the 26th.
6 o'clock on the 26th.
Okay, you did good.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Aye, aye.
Okay.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
I got something else to
Sorry,
say too.
guys.
She's already voted aye.
Best if I don't go anyway.